I wrote a blog post a while ago about why I f***ing hate video games, because this is what it does. It appeals to, like, the male fantasy.
You are very warm. What you felt light up inside you was a Baldekin's blessing. Though it is but a fleeting thing, I am afraid. Come back to me, should you require another. I will take you in my arms as often as you need.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is... What is this?
Maintaining
frame number 13.
The Sigma grind, folks. The Sigma grind.
Yeah. Royals face
Grind
pressure to be perfect while the peasants are still revolting. That might be a little bit of a vague title, but we'll get into the details momentarily. So, yeah, welcome to the show, and it is good to see you guys. Remember, we are now on Rumble, and it would be great if you guys, could follow us there as well. It looks like it's working. Yep, we're good. We're live. For some reason, Rumble's a little bit, janky. A little janky.
Well, they're still getting getting their streaming in order.
Yeah, but the streaming is working, so...
On Rumble, our channel name is HB Radio. HB Radio. So that's what you want to look up, not just Honey Badger, because you get a lot of, or Badger, because you'll get a lot of general content. And I chose the title, so you guys can blame me if you found it too vague or confusing. Essentially, we're looking at a article on how teen girls are pressure or feel more pressure. This isn't necessarily that they have more pressure. They feel more pressure to be perfect. This, despite the fact that statistically teen boys or boys in general are more likely to drop out. They are more likely to be in remedial classes. They are more likely to be punished or given detention or suspensions. They're more likely to end up in juvenile detention. They're more likely to end up, did I say drugs? They're more likely to end up drugged because their behavior is not good. They're more likely to end up in, as I said before, special ed classes. They're more likely to end up being victims of violence at school. They're more likely to end up being victims of police violence at school. They're more likely to end up being, in the past, I don't know if this is the case anymore, they were more likely to be victims of corporal punishment. Not corporeal. That would mean physically.
Like physical punishment.
Yeah, that would be like punishment,
of the living. The corporeal of the living.
Corporal punishment. Okay.
I don't think that we do corporal punishment at all anymore, but I could be wrong. Well, actually, maybe it depends on, because I know this BBC thing is focused on the UK, but I could imagine there's other countries where,
they still do it.
They still beat their kids or beat kids in school.
Well, beat boys, really. Never really
boys.
Girls. Yeah. And they also, boys are subject to, and now this has been statistically confirmed, active teacher prejudice against boys. So despite boys pretty much sweeping the, I want to say sweeping the Oscars, but maybe nobody will understand that. Sweeping every category of potential disenfranchisement in school, they have found one. They have found one way that girls are victimized, supposedly.
And that's what we got to write about.
Themselves. And that's what we're going to write about. Yeah. And, I know that there are people who maybe listen to us, maybe not anymore, but whatever, who probably listen to this and say, oh, you're doing the what about the men? Yes, we are. Because we are challenging your obsession with female victimhood by using context. And I hate to say it, but for both men and women, it is a public service to challenge people's obsession with making women out to be victims. I was recently looking at the history of cosmetic facial patches throughout history. And I got onto that topic because I was looking for the history of stickers, just stickers, like when stickers were developed and when, self-sticking stickers were developed. And I just end up getting interested in weird things. That's all I can say. And so it led me to facial stickers. which the aristocracy, starting with the aristocracy in France, used to put on their faces in order to hide blemishes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I started with an article from some now defunct website that, honest to God, framed the history of beautifying facial stickers as one of oppressive, misogynist persecution and potential genocide against women.
What?
I'm like,
wait.
I
What are
yeah,
what
no,
are wait? What? Yeah, no. I mean, I totally get that. It doesn't surprise me at all. But what are facial beautification stickers?
okay, just to
Are you
explain it again.
like a little
In-
like a rainbow that a girl puts on her cheek, like a sticker of like a rainbow
well, the
or a
original
unicorn?
ones, the original ones were a lot simpler. There might be like a little bit of
Like,
velvet, or like a velvet
oh,
star, or a like a circle or a little small
oh, okay,
shape that
like
you
a
would
fake
stick on.
mole kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
they were pretty obviously fake. So they would do this because they would be wanting to hide blemishes during. We had to. Facial blemishes were pretty common before antibiotics. Let's say that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they would do in order to. And the this site made this whole thing out to be all about misogynist persecution of women, about witch hunting, about Puritan moralizing, about uh, hatred of women. And I'm reading
Yeah.
the first couple paragraphs, and I'm like, people who are into this is sick. This
Yeah.
is like, you guys have a sickness.
It is
You
a
are
sickness.
sick.
Yes.
And I
it is.
don't understand the mentality behind wallowing in this crap. And then wallowing in this crap to the point where you're like, somebody points out some context. Well, men wore facial stickers to hide the results of being forced into war. Oh no, what about the men? Yeah, yes, it is. Because I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you get away from that mentality of being so fixated on female victimhood. That can't be healthy. It can't. So I left that website, and I found a neutral history of facial stickers, and I read it, and it was pretty much what you would imagine. Women were just competing with other women. They wanted to hide facial scars, and then men also wanted to do the same, and then it just got caught on and became popular. And then maybe there was some social pressure for women to wear an exact number of dots on their face. Because if you wore too many dots, you were a whore. And if you wore too few, you weren't trying hard enough. And I wonder who was applying those pressures on other women. I wonder who was applying the pressure of the perfect number of dots on the Duchess of Ambrose's face. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're all back to the topic.
All right. Well, yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Like, it's funny when women discuss, and I wouldn't be surprised if this will come up in this article, when they discuss their insecurities, they never put the blame where, like, they always put the blame on men, like it's their fault. And I've seen this, like, not even extreme. It's just like a woman goes, and complains that, she feels like she has to be really skinny. They even put like a meme out about it that, somehow men prefer like super skinny chicks. And I was like, you're delusional. Like, have you ever asked a man what he likes in a woman? Or have you only ever like listened to what other women claim men want in women and then acted on that? Because, like, seriously, like, men could probably stand to be pickier, in my opinion, but not necessarily for physical qualities, but like for, personality traits and the quality of someone's, their integrity, their honesty, like, their compassion. Do they like you? Or are you just something that they can like fuck, And it's just really wild. It's like a lot of these women, they live in a world that they think men are in with them, and they're just not. I think most of it is like other women are, building on this illusion, and these women are in there with it, and they're going, "Oh, men are terrible. They want me to lose all this weight." It's like, no, actually, men. There's men for all types, for one. But as long as you don't look like you're gonna, you're really unhealthy, I think that most men are gonna be fine with that. Anyway, they would know that if they cared about men enough to actually try to understand what men like, but they don't. So
some of this really sounds more like they want to be able to get the widest variety of men and be able to manipulate them the most.
Yeah, cast the widest net. Yeah,
that's what looks maxing really seems to end up being about, as opposed to self-maxing. I don't know I don't want, because that's sort of like getting into the feminist self-focus, but like the idea of becoming a better person. And if women have insecurities, one good cure for that is actually getting the context of the situation for men.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, if you have insecurities because you're going over the top 10%, why don't you try thinking about going after the men that the average woman or the most women don't seem to be interested in, because they have an arbitrary set of characteristics. And instead of going after what every woman wants, why don't you find out what you want as a person and go after that? Like, strike off everything on your list of what you want in a man that every other woman also wants, and find out what would be a good companion for you in your life, and look for that. That's going to probably be embodied by only like a few men, and they aren't going to be necessarily in the top 10. But then you get a companion, somebody that you can spend time with, somebody who will probably care about you more than anyone else in your life, to be quite honest. Like, even your girlfriends, they're going to drop you. If your relationship with them becomes too much of an onerous burden, if you have to ask for anything, they will drop you. That's what I've seen. That they're very flattering. They can be very flattering, but they're very shallow and superficial, and they probably won't have your back. Okay.
Yeah.
You get a companion, and you learn to like men. You learn to develop yourself to the point where you understand what you want in a companion. Oh God, this isn't dating. Okay, sorry, we've this is off topic, guys. This is not dating. This is maintaining frame.
That's what I said.
The article. I'm sorry, Ryan.
It's okay. No, I did call it maintaining frame when we introduced it. Yeah. So you just made a little mistake. No big deal.
Okay. No, I mean, I went off topic because this is maintaining.
Oh, we ended up talking about dating. Yeah, the article. Yeah. Want me to do the article?
Actually, okay. No. I want to describe the articles that I was talking about. The article is from Racked, which is apparently no longer publishing. Think crap. Is the shockingly gruesome history of beauty marks real and fake? The history of fake beauty marks goes back quite a while, and like most beauty history and history of femininity in general, it involves gruesome deaths, witch trials, definitely some puritanical political philosophies, divine prophecy, public humiliation, and arbitrary opinions dressed up as scientific fact, used as the basis to defend torture. Could you imagine? Now do rouge, like cheek. Let's do wig powder next. Can you imagine what they could turn those into? Like, seriously, facial patches. Now, at that point, I'm like, you know what? This is fetishistic. Stop. And this is why I do it. This is one of the reasons why I do it. Yeah, it's like you guys have a problem. You have a serious problem. You have a serious obsession with making women out to be victims of everything. And you need context. That's why we do what we do. Yep. All right.
I'm sharing the screen so that you can look at the article with me. Okay, before we start, do your...
Okay. I'm going to remind everybody that we do rely on our viewer support to maintain the show. And you can do that at feedthebadger.com. You can also do that through Super Chats, and we really appreciate that. And that's through YouTube. YouTube takes 50% now. You can also do Super Chats through Rumble. Rumble takes 75%. And if you want to give your maximum badger for the buck, go to feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get everything but whatever PayPal takes out. And you can also write us a novel, although please don't write us a novel. That is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right.
Okay. Yeah, the link is in the description. Go check it out. So let us take a look at this article now. Okay, so it's entitled Girls Face More Pressure to Be a Perfect Teenager by Branwen Jeffreys, education editor. I don't know what an education editor is, but God keep her away from my kids. Teenage girls get less sleep and exercise than boys and are 3 times as likely to report struggling with their mental health. 3 times as likely to report struggling with their mental health. Not to suffer from more mental health issues, but to talk about it. I wonder why boys aren't talking about it. Maybe because the mental health industry doesn't serve men or boys. Those are among findings drawn from the experiences of almost 40,000 teenagers across Greater Manchester. Young people worked with academics to devise a questionnaire for the Be Well research project. It's the largest attempt to capture the well-being of young people in one region and will run over 3 years. Saint, one of the year 10 pupils who responded, wasn't surprised the first results reveal some marked differences between the experiences of girls and boys. Girls were 3 times as likely, which was at 22%, to report serious emotional difficulties as boys at 7%. So just 7% of boys.
Okay, can I just get in here?
Yeah.
That's an artifact of the surveying. Boys don't generally report these kinds of things. You have to look at behavior in order to get a clear idea of what's happening. So, for example, when you ask boys and men about their emotional experiences after having been raped, they will generally not express as much psychological problems as women will. However, when you look at their behavior, they won't state on a survey. They won't state as many psychological problems as women will. But when you look at their behavior, you'll see higher rates of dropout, substance abuse, problems with relationships, that kind of thing. So this is meaningless. Essentially, what they found out is that female teenagers in a culture of complaint, of obsessing about victimhood being the primary definition of being a woman, like this is everywhere. You can't escape it as a girl. You are very much encouraged to view yourself as a victim. And in that cultural context, women or teenage girls express victimhood to a greater degree than teenage boys. This is meaningless. It's absolute bullshit. It's garbage, actually.
Yeah.
Base any kind of conclusion on, it's absolute garbage. And
also on the other, because we are talking about reporting, like, couldn't you also like tip the scales in the other direction by, well, in the same direction, but from the other end by essentially like encouraging girls to complain about things that they otherwise wouldn't by, and you know what I mean? Like like basically pushing them to, to believing that they're having a much more negative experience than they actually are. And I think that happens because like, I'm reminded, and this is the UK, I'm reminded of that one school where they created a website where girls could anonymously, post about sexual like harassment or misconduct that they experienced. And of course they were encouraged to go on there and tell their stories. And of course a bunch of teenage girls did go on there and tell stories which could not be corroborated or proven or at all. So they could have just made stuff up. They could have exaggerated things in their mind. They could have done whatever. And because it was a zero consequence environment, they just did whatever. And of course, the boys, they had to change out of their uniforms when leaving the school because they were afraid of mob justice. And so, like, on the one hand, we have a lack of services for boys. We have a lack of a desire to communicate with boys, observe boys, pay attention to what their needs are, try to, help them in the ways that boys are different. But on the other hand, we're also, I would say, gaslighting girls into thinking that things are a lot worse than they actually are. And I think that's another aspect of it, because we encourage that in teenage girls. We basically encourage them to complain, and then they have to find things to complain about.
Well, yeah, we would recognize a lot of the negative effects of all kinds of social expectations placed on girls, but there's a huge expectation for girls to regard themselves as victims. Is that healthy? Like, have they ever done any research into the mental health cost of all of this on women and girls, teenage girls and women? No, because then they would have to question what they're doing in pushing this crap on women.
I think that women are struggling with mental health issues that are a byproduct of this kind of like framework that they're being pushed to operate within, this idea that they're oppressed and the men are their enemy and they shouldn't trust them, and that 1 in 5, 1 in 4, rape culture, all these things. So of course you scare the shit out of teenage girls of in their sort of sexually active years, or in the years that they typically do after puberty. And then of course they have so much negativity associated with the opposite sex, and they think they also get this idea pushed on them that that they're a boss bitch, and they can like do anything, and that they're empowered, and all these things. Yeah, well, that's just it though. Like they don't put 2 and 2 together. But when they actually go out into the world and they find out that it's harder than they were told, because their hand isn't being held for them anymore, and that they can't like find healthy relationships, not just with the opposite sex, because obviously they were conditioned to fear them and distrust them, but also with the same sex, because now they're competing with girls, over status and whatnot. And of course, the bullying that happens within female circles is not called out. It's not treated as like a phenomenon that should be addressed at all, because, heaven forbid we would consider that women can sometimes be as capable of, the same evils that men are. And so I think it does do harm to their self-esteem, to their mental health. I've noticed that women, a lot of women that have a large social media presence, they complain about depression. They're on medications. They're struggling. Like they're not okay, and I think that this is part of that. And again, I'm not saying that they're uniquely in this shape. I think boys are struggling too, but mostly they struggle in silence, silent desperation. But girls are a lot more vocal, and of course, nothing's getting done for them because only they can change that. They have to take their life into their own hands and take charge and try to like figure out what's wrong. But they don't believe that it's their fault, because they think it's the fault of patriarchy in the world and everybody else.
Well, yeah. I mean, they say things like, "Oh, girls can do anything," but at the same time, girls are victims of everything. Well, if you say how is that empowering? I mean, girls don't need messages if they can do anything. They need to know how. They need the psychological tools to be able to achieve. Yeah. And we can get into that. Like, for example, this respect women. No. Respect a girl based on the actions that she chooses to take. That's the way that respect works. And it refocuses from valuing her exclusively for her hoo-ha to valuing her for what's between her ears. And this is what infuriates me about feminism as currently practiced, as what I've seen throughout, for as long as I've been researching it prior to and what basically got me to stop identifying as one is that there is this unbelievable emphasis on women as victims of men, this unbelievable emphasis on reducing women down to, now I don't even know what it is. I guess just identifying as a woman. If you identify as a woman,
yeah,
and then reducing women down to that alone, and defining them by it, and then saying, and then asking why women don't achieve. Well, you've granted women every single possible value at the start. Like if there's a man and a woman at the start of the race, and before the woman even runs the race, you hand her the winnings trophy and the winnings money. Why would she race?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like if you hand women everything, every possible social value just because they're women, there's nothing for them to achieve.
Right.
At all.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that makes them, that gives them they struggle with these mental health issues, because they're like, we're basically taking away any sense of moral purpose from women, because they can't. So they don't get to make any decisions, because no matter what decision they choose, we are only prohibited to celebrate it unconditionally, whether they want to be a single mother with 4 kids, and then or if they put on 100 pounds or whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter. We have to celebrate them. And so women have nothing to aim for. They have nothing to aspire to, because there are no standards at all. And I think that is tremendously depressing and damaging to women.
Well, okay, so we have to celebrate every single choice women make. Every single outcome in their life has to be supported. This is what I'm seeing. This isn't necessarily we're there yet, but this is the trajectory of all of this. So that women develop no personal moral autonomy, none whatsoever. Essentially, they never see the connection between what they control, which is their own actions, and their outcomes. You know, as a person, I would rather take the action of losing weight to get a reward of, I guess, increased attention. It's not really that important. Than to just warp the world around to create a world in which I get what I want without associating it with an action I've taken. Because that world is a world in which I develop nothing. I don't develop as a human being.
Yeah.
Like it's what is the point? What is the point of living that life? And then you add on the wallowing in this self-destructive, really horrific beliefs about being a victim. It's like, why do you, one, why do you want to live that way? Two, how do you not see the increase in mental health issues among women there? And the lack of happiness there.
Well,
because they're being taught a state of existential being that's destructive. Yeah,
it is.
Anyway,
and of course, the woman who's writing this, she doesn't actually believe the shit she's saying. But a teenage girl, she might. I mean, I don't think that this article was written for teenage girls, but like the environment that's been, that's been promoted in high schools to put girls in this position, I think is, affecting them, because they trust what their adults, authorities tell them. They trust their teachers. They trust their social workers and such. So if they tell them this, then teenage girls are more likely to be like, that must be the problem. And of course, it turns them into activists, because that's what these people really just want to do. They want to create more feminists, and that's what that does.
Maybe other than an alternative interpretation is she probably has a job she wants to defend, an intervention she wants to promote, some line of money that she wants to get by once again exploiting teenage girls.
Sure. All right. Anyway, back to the article. Saint, who wants to be a scientist, dropped out of football because she'd had enough of feeling unwelcome as the only girl. She told me, I think a lot of it today is about looking good for other people, being who other people expect you to be, the perfect girl, especially today when lots of people are questioning who they are and their identity.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There are some realities here. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to exclude trans women from women's sport and complain that trans women are destroying women's sport, which is what they are, then you got to realize that when women go into men's teams, the men are going to feel the fact that one of their players is playing subpar, and you will play subpar as a woman. You don't have the stamina. You don't have the strength. You don't have the agility. You probably don't have the reflexes to play at the same level as the boys on your team. Full stop, the end. They have every right to feel resentful that they have to accommodate you and your egotistic desires at the cost of their own effectiveness as a team. All right? Get off your fucking high horse.
Yeah.
And once again, if you don't want to acknowledge this, then I guess we won't be having women's sports in the future. They will become trans women's sports. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that trans women absolutely blow women out of the water in terms of athletics, and they have every right to do so. They're women too. It just so happens that they are women who are benefited by a superior athletic ability to the average woman. Why shouldn't they completely remove women's sports from the map? Why shouldn't they?
Yep.
But if you are going to say that that shouldn't be the case, you also have to acknowledge what happens when women play on men's teams and get involved in mostly male sports. And I'm not talking about like things like wrestling, because with wrestling, she would be fighting one-on-one. So her inability to win anything, well, I guess it would affect a wrestling team. So that's a concern as well. But yeah, so it's like if you unless you're going to acknowledge this, then you know what? Why don't you play on the trans women's team? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think the results will be very similar, but yes. Because she's just going to be functioning at a lower level.
She wants to be able to say women function at the same level of sports as men. So it's okay for me to go on a team and deliberately handicap it.
Yeah.
But also trans women function higher than women. No, you don't get it both ways. Yeah. Either you guys, women stay out of men's sports and men stay out of women's sports, or men or women who have had the benefit of a male biological or hormonal profile for however many years of their life stay out of women's sports, or it's a free for all.
Yep.
Choose. Okay.
All right. I got a couple super chats and then I'll continue. So Richard Bier gives us
Rumble?
Not through Rumble, although someone did say in Rumble, Crinkle Cut Crisis says Rumble takes 25%, I think, in regards to that. So yeah, they do take less than YouTube. I know that much. So
that's what YouTube used to take about.
Yeah.
But now YouTube takes way more.
Yeah, it's like half or more than half. They might even take like 60%. Richard Bier gives us $4.99 and says, how many in the control group were reporting mental health issues who didn't experience any form of trauma? Well, there isn't really a link to the study, so that's part of the problem. We're just being told this. The other thing is, when you're like studies that depend on self-reporting, it's all kind of wishy-washy and gray, because if females are more likely to complain than males. So that already skews it. Even if males are experiencing discomfort, they're less likely to complain about that discomfort. And it's not because of toxic masculinity. It's because they don't want to be a burden on people, and they think, well, I can endure this, so I'm not going to complain about it. It's fine, like whatever, right? But women are more likely to gripe because people are more likely to respond to that and try to help them. So you're not going to get like a real clear idea of, you know, how lopsided these numbers are, simply because men and women are different. And that also refers to how they report their own trauma or their own pain. Albatross gives us $5 and says it's a message of empowerment and learned helplessness at the same time. Yeah, well, it's sort of like a salad bar, you know, take what you want and leave the rest. You can basically decide you're a victim right now and then take the victim parts of your salad and then later decide that you're empowered and a boss bitch. And you could flip on a dime and everyone just has to go with it, because we wouldn't want to call that out as inconsistent. So, all right. No additional super chats. So I am looking at both Rumble and YouTube, guys. So wherever you're at, you can comment. So Saint, who wants to be a scientist, dropped out of football because she'd had enough of feeling unwelcome as the only girl. Oh, just a really quick thing on this. I'm not sure if they mean football like an actual, like, official football team. And of course, this is in the UK, so they mean soccer. That's what we would call it. Yeah, so I don't know if she means like a team or if maybe she just had a friend group that she played soccer with. I don't know. She told me, quote, I think a lot of it today is about looking good for other people, being who the other people expect you to be, the perfect girl, especially today when lots of people are questioning who they are and their identity. Yeah, well, who's doing that to them? Who's making it difficult for teenagers to understand their identity? You know that a lot of teenagers, I went through, you know, this is like we all had that period during puberty where we were questioning our identity, or we were trying to grasp at what we were and what we were going to be. So this isn't just like a recent thing with regards to, you know, the current gender conversation. I mean, this is like this is a problem that every teenager goes through. And I think there's a reason why all of this gender ideology comes along when, you know, you're looking at teenagers, because they're very, very, very vulnerable at that stage. Like, I knew a girl when I was in high school who used to tell me that she felt like a boy that day. And so, you know, and that she would treat gender like it was this thing you could just, you know, move around, you know, and I was just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you're obviously a woman. And she thought that because, you know, she was kind of like tomboyish and, you know, wore jeans and like, you know, sneakers, and she liked to run, you know, and was a little bit like physically active, that meant that she was masculine. And I'm like, where'd you get that idea? Like, girls before puberty are, you know, potentially as physical as boys are. It doesn't mean that they're not boys, but you see, I'm telling you guys this because this was like in the late 80s, early 90s when this happened, and it wasn't uncommon. And I think this kind of thing was getting into women's heads even, and maybe men's heads too, even back then, which was just kind of weird. So it's only gotten worse since then. And it is confusing. You know, Lindsay tells me that she used to do the same thing when she was a teenager. And she said if this, like, you know, this whole like non-binary, gender non-conforming stuff was going on when she was a kid, she might have transitioned back then because she would have bought into it. And, you know, which would have been a shame because I like her as a woman. And what I like is what matters the most. Okay, but anyway. So she told me, quote, I think of a lot of it today is about looking good for other people. All right, I already read that bit. Online, she added, there is pressure to construct a life that looks busy, even if you don't have the people you can talk to properly in real life. Social media use was higher among girls, an average of 4.8 hours a day. I bet it's higher than that. And 46% reported not getting enough sleep. Well, is that patriarchy's fault?
No, it's 100% not.
It's women.
The studies that look into bullying, or at least one study that looks into bullying online, it is something perpetuated by, I don't know, it's an insane number, like 95% women.
Yeah.
Or The targets are the bullies are 95% women. The
Online.
targets are 85% women.
Yeah.
Okay. Women occupy, and I might be wrong with that, so double check that. Somebody can double check it, maybe put the link in the comments. But the numbers are insane. Women are the ones who bully online. As Doge said, social media is like Call of Duty for women. It's like it's how they play a game, except the prize is the legitimate social destruction of another human being. The prize is to send the other girl home in tears and getting a rope out. That's their prize.
Yeah, when I do subbing at middle schools and high school, the girls are on their phone constantly. And their whole thing is about growing a base of followers. And it's not specifically boys, because they're discovering boys when they're in middle school, but they're not like it's not like a priority. It's just popularity. It's just popularity, and they tear down other girls to get it because it gives them that boost. So like the landscape of social media is a female dominated landscape. Like it just, that's not a controversial thing to say.
No, like, and if you cannot talk about mean girl bullying or the effect of women, destroying each other for resources, popularity resources, whatever, you can't talk about this. You can't resolve it. Like 100%, the individual who's writing or was part of this, Branwen Jeffreys and the Be Well report, they aren't going to be able to do it. They aren't going to do anything. They probably don't even give a fuck. Like, to be honest, I would imagine that this is spearheading some way to get their claws in the government coffers. Like do they care about reducing bullying? Do they care about giving girls the tools that they need to actually overcome this? Which, incidentally, isn't about constantly telling them that they're victims, but telling them how to manage their own mental health issues, how to remove toxic people from their lives, how to set good boundaries, how to get away from an addiction to popularity. Like, all of this requires recognizing a girl as a moral agent with control over her own life and choices that she's making, and empowering her to make those choices and not treating her like a victim. Yeah. That's what's needed. Are they going to do it? No, because that doesn't make money. Money. All of these girls are a price, or are a ka-ching, a cash out for them. So they're not going to give them the tools that they need. They're just going to groom them into a population of perfect perpetual victims that they can exploit. Yeah. And it's sick. This is sick. If you are a girl who is dealing with this, honestly, I cannot sugarcoat this. You have to take the steps to protect yourself from it. You have to start kicking toxic people out of your life. You got to start resolving whatever hole is in your heart that wants you to go after popularity rather than developing yourself as a moral individual, improving the relationships with people who care about you. Okay? You need to do that, and it's entirely within your power to do it, and there are steps that you can take to take that kind of control over your life. But blaming boys is the exact opposite of doing that. Yeah. All right.
Another thing I wanted to throw in there too, I'd like to see someone do a study on this. I don't expect that they would, because you would have to then, acknowledge that most of the activity on social media is dominated by women, or young women, girls, whatever. And that is where do those young girls that are on social media, these middle school girls that I was talking about, they're not even Zoomers. I think they're Generation Alpha now, and the high school Zoomers that are women that, they all have TikToks, they all have Instagrams, they all have whatever the latest social media is. They're on Telegram, etc., and they're all sharing pictures of themselves, their makeup, their hair, their foods, and places they've been, their clique, etc. I wonder if I'm curious about this, because I'd like to see a study on it. if their mothers have an influence over that. Because, I mean, like, adult women are also on social media a lot more. And I wonder if their daughters are basically just, reproducing that behavior. I mean, somebody gave this 12-year-old girl a phone. It was probably her mom. And the reason given was probably something like, well, I'd like to be able to talk to my daughter whenever. And I can understand that. But if you also gave her access to TikTok and Instagram and shit like that, maybe it's because you didn't think it was a problem because you did it. Like,
I just got a piece of bullying, a one woman bullying another woman that came across through one of my other servers that are unrelated to men's rights. In this incident, this particular woman does fan art of a couple in which the girl, although she ends up married to a man, the fanon community has decided is a lesbian. And this is the lovely bit of bitch, fuck you Ming, Chris, insert character is literally a lesbian bitch. That's why you granny dead, you grandpa next, and you mama a whore and got STDs, and that's why your daddy left you for drugs, and that's why he abused you and your mom.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Man, women, when they bully each other online, they go ham. What is the saying that Louis C.K. said? He says, boys fuck shit up, girls are fucked up. He says, boys, they'll break your shit. They're like, when they're feeling mischievous or destructive, they'll like knock over your ashtray and break it on the ground, or throw something and break it. But girls, they will take a shit in your heart. And I think that they have the potential for that. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there's a comment on one of our previous videos. I think it was the one with the older supermodel who's complaining about she's not getting male attention. Yeah. And of course, we made the argument that one of the reasons why she's not getting male attention is because she hasn't developed herself as a person. And if you don't develop yourself as a person, as you age, you don't become, you become like, aging is about developing yourself as a person. If you don't do it, you're not going to be able to compete with you're not going to compete with younger women anyway, but you're also not going to have anything else to fall back on. So the woman in question said that we were being, let me see if I can pull it up. Good. Okay. You guys are a little too hard on her. Yes, her eggs were all in one basket, but after years of people praising and sucking up to her, then cutting off the supply, it's cruel. I do think she could be married to a lot of successful men, and she's smart, and I don't think she's a bitch. She's simply a product of her environment. No, she is a bitch. And I say that based on the sense of entitlement. The fact that she did in her youth exactly what she's complaining about now. As a young woman, she married a man of means who was significantly older than her. And then after she got hers, she turned around and complained that men of means, her own age, are marrying younger women. You mean they're giving those young women the same shot that you got? You got your shot, it's over. Let the younger women take the stage and enjoy the being in the limelight, and getting wealthy by catching the eye of an older man of means. Okay, just that's the way the world works in your particular, social sphere. You got your shot. That's it. Like it's like these women who rely solely on their looks, like they're like athletes, male athletes. You get your shot, and then you're over. You're out at 35. You're done.
Yep.
And the younger men are the ones who now get to occupy the position that you had. Do you ever hear male athletes saying, "I can't believe the leagues are signing on younger men than me. I can't believe," like, no. They know that's the deal. That's the deal. That's the drill. That's how it works. You get your shot when you're young. If you are in a profession or you're in a social situation that you rely on your looks, you get your shot when you're young. When you're old, you cede the field to younger people. The end. Stop complaining about it. You must have known this from the beginning. And now you have to rely on what you developed in terms of your financial responsibility, which is an aspect of your personality, and your personal development. And you did neither, presumably. You did neither. So
there you go. So basically what you're saying is
maybe you got rid of that old yee ass haircut you got, you get some bitches on your dick. Oh, better yet, maybe Tanisha will call your dog ass if she ever stop fucking with that brain surgeon, the lawyer she fucking with, nigga.
What? I don't. Maybe that's what I'm saying. But the other thing is it kind to continue to fluff someone? Like, to continue to say flattering things to oh, it's not your fault. Oh, there's nothing you could have done. And yeah, after you have tea with your girlfriend, or you have your freaking, I don't know, hot toddies, or who knows what women do, who do this kind of thing. You know, you go over and you have your little hen fest. Mm-hmm. She has to live with her life. She has to live with her own failure, and with no understanding of what actual legitimate steps she can take to improve her existence. So you get to make her feel better, but you leave her in failure. Who is the bitch? Like, who is the one who's being mean? Me, who will be brutally honest about what I see, and I do it for the men in the Discord too. I will be honest. Or you, who's going to flatter her, make her feel better for, like, I don't know, a couple hours, and then leave her for misery because you don't really want to make the effort. What's important to you about other women is not that they improve their lives, not that they get to be better people, not that they enjoy themselves, not that they have fulfilling relationships. What's important to you, and this is what I've seen when women who say this, is that the woman continue to regard you as is your popularity, basically, your reputation with this woman. So you won't be honest. You'll just engage in empty flattery to soothe whatever hurt she has. You'll leave her to her misery. And that's that. Because all you care about is how she views you, not the effect of her actions at the end of the day. Okay. I don't say things about women because I want to make them worse off. I say them because I want them to be better off.
Yeah.
To enjoy their lives more, to have more fulfilling relationships, to be better people and enjoy the fruits of being better people, at least as far as I can see it. I mean, I could be wrong, you know, but whatever, that's always possible. Whereas many women engage with other women for two reasons, either to tear the shit out of them or to keep them as popularity resources.
Yep. All right. Let me just check. Nothing new here. I'm going to continue reading the article. So yeah, social media use was higher among girls. Shock. The teenagers I spoke to, I guess she meant, it's a little weird looking sentence. The teenagers I spoke to said social media could be a source of support, but also added the pressures on girls around body image from other girls, guys. Across the city, Ruby, also year 10, said
there is pressure from boys around body image. Like, boys can get mean when it comes to that. So I will give them that. But then the other thing is that it can be very tempting when you're facing a situation where there's half the human race that is regarded as sexually valuable just by virtue of bleeding, and you're part of the half that isn't. There can be some, I think, desire to get even, which I think motivates a lot of that.
Yeah.
But so I understand that, and it's unfortunate. I wish that boys would also, like, I wish girls would treat boys better, and I wish that the 5% of male bullies online, 95% of bullies female, the 5% of male bullies online would treat women better, or at least more like, the average man, rather than being a feminine outlier. Sorry, was that insulting?
No,
I mean, seriously,
it's fine.
If you're bullying on online, you might be a little light in the loafers if you're a man. But anyway, so it's like, It'd be good if they would stop bullying women. It would be really, 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 really good. Percent of online bullies who are women stop doing it, and that we started to address it. So,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like,
Well,
yeah,
I
boys
think
don't
that
do
if
that.
yeah, well, I think that because I do believe that on social media, women, just like in social interactions, women kind of set the tone, and usually men try to they try to adapt themselves to fit into that window. And so if women are good to each other online and they're good to men online, then men will probably respond by being better, because I think that they tend to respond to the standards that women set or girls set. So if girls, well, again, I'm not trying to put the blame on anyone. I'm just saying that I think in the social landscape, women kind of set the tone. And
No,
so,
they do. That's very
and so
true.
men will follow, I think, if they see that, like, there is a general shift in behavior towards other people online, whether they're male or female.
Yeah.
Because most male bullying is just physical, and it's in person. And sometimes, and I know that some people might not believe this, but I think sometimes, maybe even a lot of the time, it is because the men who are the bullies are trying to strengthen the boys they are bullying. So there might, it not always, but I think that sometimes there is like a or at least we shouldn't count out, that they're trying to like make these men, better men, but they have a dysfunctional way of doing it.
If a boy stands up for himself, sometimes the male bully will respect that.
Yeah.
If a girl stands up for herself, it is game on for female boys.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's like, yeah, they will read triple, quadruple down on the bullying until they leave like they just leave a corpse on a rope. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And a boy who, a bully who doesn't, change course if the kid he's bullying stands up to him and just becomes more violent or more emotional, more angry, he's probably got like other issues that need to be dealt with from home. So that's almost always the case, though, with bullies. Okay, but anyway, Ruby, right? I think it's clear it is more in women to struggle more. In my opinion, boys can be cocky with the things that they know, and it puts other people down. So do boys feel they have more freedom? 2 year 8 boys, so year 8, it's like 8th grade, I guess, I spoke to told me that they thought that was true, not least in sport because the choice for boys is wider. Sad, I guess, said he thought boys had much more leeway to be mischievous and mess around. Overall, a third of the teenagers reported being active for an hour a day, including just walking, but for girls that fell to just 26%. To just 20, so 15 minutes? Whatever. Oh, a third of teenagers reported being active, but for girls it's 26%.
Wait. Well, a third of teenagers reported being active for an hour a day. So presumably the girls, if it's a third of teenagers,
26% of which are girls, then the majority is girls?
No. It means that the number for boys must be significantly higher.
Mm-hmm.
So girls are, instead of going out and being active or walking or doing anything, they're on social media fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Of course this is female victimhood.
Yeah, it's boys' fault.
I mean, not victimhood of other women, but this is the choice that they're making.
Yeah.
This is the choice that they're making. And you can't, like, you're not going to be able to change it until you're like, well, you're making this choice. You are choosing to go on social media and engage in something that is damaging to you rather than engage in something that's healthful. Let us figure out why you're making the choice and change it, but it is your choice. Like, and this is how this ends up, that the way that the individuals who do this crap ends up ensuring that this crap continues. How are boys supposed to make girls go out? So how is it that the fact that boys are choosing to go out and walk, how is that now an excuse to blame boys for the fact that girls are choosing not to go out and walk? And how does making that framing help girls at all? It doesn't. It's psychotic. Okay.
It's also kind of like saying that boys are more active during recess than girls. And that somehow that's boys' fault that girls aren't, because like, even if you, again, I do the middle school thing, and when we do recess, well, middle school doesn't have recess, but when I would sub in elementary school and there was a recess and I would take the kids to recess, I noticed that the boys, they wanted to play tag and they wanted to do like climb things and, you know, just be physical, right? They run around, they bump their heads, they get right back up, you know, they play football, whatever. And the girls, they'll swing on the swings and they will gossip and they will, you know, play pretend like, I don't know whatever. I don't really pay attention, but they basically engage in social play. So it's less physical. I mean, in general, like there are some girls who want to play tag and like red light, green light and shit, but like a lot of them are just not, you know, and I don't think that's, well, it's obviously not boys' fault, but you know what the problem seems to be is the author of this piece is operating under the presumption that if there wasn't an oppressive force on girls, that boys and girls would behave exactly the same way and have the exact same interests and they would have the exact same outcomes. That's what she's operating under, I think.
She's looking at any kind of
discrepancy
way that she can frame boys as being better off in order to develop a narrative that I guess boys are oppressing girls because they're better off. And there's like there's missing steps, and those missing steps are filled in by our emotional beliefs. Like we believe that if men are benefited, that there must be a mechanism, an unlawful satanic mechanism in place that we need to destroy. And that's because we have this compulsion to provide and protect for women as a society. It's why we exist as a species. So we prioritize that. And everywhere people can frame that men are or boys are getting some kind of benefit, we fill in the gap with there must be some nefarious force at work. There's a fallacy. It's called the intent fallacy. If something has a really negative consequence, we imply more intent. So all she has to do is frame this in terms of having negative consequences to girls, and we assume an intent. And then, you know, she gets to tilt at windmills while maintaining a job and an income stream. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, researchers think it's also possible that there is less space for boys to express vulnerability. Yeah, of course, but that's, well, anyway. Ahmed told me, quote, as boys, we express our emotions less. We're expected to be stoic, end quote. He doesn't really use social media.
All right. So is this going to inform any kind of intervention? Like, I mean, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they're just like doing this and they're not going to do anything. Like this isn't laying the groundwork for any particular intervention by the government into making girls walk more. How do you do that without engaging with their choice?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, let's
continue. The research will be analyzed to show the differences in well-being between different neighborhoods across the city region. That could be revealing in the differences between wealthier and more deprived areas, but also the many different communities in a big urban area. So they're not even, I don't think they're going to even touch on it. I think he said it and they just moved away. They just said,
just like, this one kid has basically undermined the entire premise of this survey. Like you don't, if you want to capture issues with men, you don't ask them, how are you feeling? You ask them, how's your work? how's your education? How's your drug use? You know, you
Yeah.
ask them about behavioral things, and then you see, suddenly from a survey in which, I'm using rape as an example because it's the one that I know about, but also I think domestic violence applies. From a survey in which men are like, yeah, no, it didn't affect me. And women are like, oh my God, I am totally destroyed by this. You got 5% of men saying, yeah, it had some effect. And you got like 95% of women saying, yeah, I was totally destroyed by it. And from that survey, once you include the behavioral effects, you get something more like 20% of women actually had experienced behavioral effects, 25% of men. It's probably higher than that, but it's like more men experience the behavioral effects than women, probably because nobody acknowledges that these things are problems. So
Yeah.
it's more likely to end up expressing itself in other ways. So this is bunk. Like, this is
Yeah.
garbage. You look at the behavioral effects, and then you'll see the damage.
Mm-hmm.
So the behavioral effects is, of course, dropouts, remedial learning, ending up in juvenile detention facility, being on
Criminal
drugs,
behavior. Yeah.
criminal behavior. Well, also like
Self-harm.
self-harm,
Yeah.
taking drugs,
Yeah.
engaging in risky sexual
Well,
behavior. So all of it.
addictions like porn addiction, video game addiction. It could
Yep.
be drugs and alcohol too, or cigarettes or whatever. So
Yeah. And also even institutional bias, which we do know, and this was out of the UK. We do know that teachers in the UK, specifically female teachers, actually do mark male students lower than female students.
mm-hmm.
So
well,
there
and
you go.
the whole curriculum is oriented around the way that the teachers, who are mostly women and mostly feminist women, think that people should learn. So they orient themselves with girls anyway. And so girls are more likely to learn better and faster, and they're more highly educated. I mean, in America, the most highest educated demographic, and when I say highest educated, I don't mean necessarily the highest achieving, like the people with the most degrees or whatever, but the most highest educated is Black women. And I think it's not necessarily because the quality of their education is good, because the quality of public education is terrible, but because they're more likely to get passing grades, they're more likely not to drop out, they're more likely to essentially be put front and center in terms of their priorities, and so they're more likely to get degrees even if the quality of their education isn't as good. And I'm not putting it on them, I'm putting it on how the system is oriented to educate. And so Black men, they do the worst. And what does that do for the relations between Black men and Black women? Well, it's not good, because Black women want a man that is, at their level or better. And Black men are not able to meet that because they're not, the education system isn't supporting them in the ways that boys learn primarily. And so they're going to do worse. But anyway, there was something else I was going to mention, but I don't remember it now. So I'm just going to continue and maybe it'll come back to me. Okay. Yeah. So they just sort of jump past this whole thing about boys expressing themselves. In Oldham, and a year 8 pupil, Maria, told me she was allowed to go to friends and to the shops on her own, but many girls aren't. The generational shift in issues around identity and gender are also apparent in the study, with 2.7% identifying as gay or lesbian and a further 7.7% as bi or pansexual. Is this boys? Oh, the generational shift in issues around identity and gender are apparent in this study. Are they talking about boys and girls?
Well, there's another problem in this. Like, so there's one mention of this person sad, and nobody.
Yeah.
It's never explained who he is. This is BBC News. This is terribly written on an objective standpoint.
Yeah.
Like you don't introduce a character into your story and then you don't know who the hell this person is. Then he disappears after one mention.
Journalists like they don't have editors anymore. Like there's no editors anymore. They just put all of it through. This has like weirdly phrased sentences, some grammatical errors, like words that are missing, and yeah, like you said, they mention a guy, like a ninth grader or something. They take his anecdote as like a little soundbite, and then they don't follow up on it at all. They just drop it in there. And I think the only reason, by the way, is to try to put the idea of toxic masculinity front and center, because they've already like sufficiently, bombarded people who read BBC News with the concept of toxic masculinity, to the point where if they even hear a boy say, we have to be stoic, that it triggers them to go right to that. Oh, it's toxic masculinity. So she doesn't even have to elaborate.
So we don't actually have to create a survey instrument that captures men's or boys' problems. We just have to blame those problems on them. Yeah,
we just do it. Oh, and that's what I was thinking of. So like, what's funny is that these two articles are around the same time. We have this thing here that's telling us, like, why aren't boys talking about their feelings? Why aren't boys telling us what their needs are? Why aren't boys on social media more? I don't know if that's what, I don't know if they think social media is a net good or not. I mean, I assume they would, because they use social media to spread their message. But then at the same time, there's an article like this that exists from The Guardian that says incels are a rising threat in the U.S. Secret Service report finds. And of course, The Guardian's an English website, and they would say the same for the UK, because incels are like the new incarnation of the threat narrative around men. But what are incels? Are they not mostly young men who are struggling in their social circles, that are not able to make friends, like period, not just women friends, but like friends generally, and they're isolated and they're atomized, and they don't feel like they belong in the society. And so the same people who will attack and criticize incels as dangerous and frame them as deadly to women will also supposedly claim that these men should be expressing their pain more, and they should be like coming forward. Yet they have nothing that serves men. Nothing. Like the American
nothing. Like the instance a man expresses, or a young man expresses their pain, they get labeled a goddamn incel. It's express your pain, men, and then we'll label you. Oh man. Yeah.
So I don't know, just kind of like, it's interesting because it's as contradictory as women are boss bitches that can do whatever they want, but also victims of everything. Incels are terrible, dangerous boys that can't get laid and feel entitled to women's bodies, but also boys should be expressing their pain and suffering more. Okay. Saint said, quote, I don't think it really surprises me at all. As celebrities, for example, have decided who they are, it's become easier for young people to look at the people they admire and think it's okay to express myself. It's more common now for people to ask themselves who they think they are at a younger age. Ahmed told me, quote, if you're LGBT, you might be harassed. I think identity plays a really big part in society, end quote. This sounds like these kids are repeating what they were told to say. I don't know if you really understand all the ins and outs of, what the LGBT, like, I don't want to say community, but population is like. I don't know that you've been exposed to it that much, but I could see teachers telling students what they're supposed to think about it, and then because they want to please the teachers, they just repeat it. Because this guy Ahmed, he's probably like 14. So like, would he really understand this that much? I mean, I know that we're told by feminists that like, these younger generations are more aware and more understanding and more knowledgeable.
And also pushing back against them more too.
Yeah, there is also that.
Kate Brooks and her bizarre desire to sexualize middle
Laura,
school boys.
Laura Bates, yeah.
Laura Bates, yeah. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Did I say Kate Bush? I cannot
Yeah,
believe. No,
Kate
I did not mean.
Brooks, not the singer Kate Bush. You said
No.
Kate Brooks, but I don't know. Is that?
Oh,
is
thank
she,
God.
She like another? She's probably a feminist too.
Sorry, we just Kate Bush. I don't think so.
No, Kate Brooks. You said Kate Brooks.
Okay,
Kate
I
Bush
feel like
is
we're
a
doing
musician.
a who's on first. Who's
No.
on first?
You said Kate Brooks, and then you said Kate Bush when I corrected you and said Laura Bates. And but Kate Bush is a singer, I think. Kate Brooks, I don't know who that is, but
she's
that's
a singer.
She's
I like her
also
as
a singer? Oh, okay.
No, Kate Brooks. I don't know. I
Oh,
just made
okay.
that up. I'm saying I like Kate Bush.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I like Kate's Bush though. All right, but anyway, let's continue because that's getting confusing. The findings in this research suggest teenagers identifying as gay or lesbian as being twice as likely to be bullied in some way. Ooh, I wonder if they get bullied by girls. Over 3 years, the Be Well research project will measure the well-being of 12 to 15-year-olds in Greater Manchester with the hope of using it to shape decisions which affect young people. The inspiration comes from well-being surveys used in a similar way in other countries, I guess, is what she means to say.
Yeah,
Is that
so
the
this
end
is
of the
going to
article?
inform
Yeah,
interventions. It's going to inform interventions, and it's already constructing a narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Data and analysis. I'm trying to find the original report because I'm imagining if the one vector they could find to create female victimhood was pressure to be perfect, what about the rest of it?
I know there's no links.
I know.
I mean, you have to like Google search it. Why would you put that out there and not give us links, Branwen Jeffreys? And again, like this isn't really like, I mean, this headline's clickbaity, but this isn't really that definitive. Like girls do generally concern themselves with their social standing more than boys. And you know what's funny about that is girls are more judgmental of boys when they don't concern themselves with social acceptance, or because boys, so like, you know how they say girls mature faster than boys? I don't know if I buy that, but what I will say is that when girls are they hit puberty sooner, and if there's no father in the home, they hit puberty even sooner. Like it can be as young as like 9. But let's say that you have a girl and she's like 14, okay? And then you have a boy that's 14. The difference is, I think on average, girls of that age, they're more likely to move away from what they deem to be childish pursuits, like playing games and playing tag and whatnot. And so they because they're starting to, you know, get more involved in the social landscape. So even if they don't have social media, even if we're going before that, let's say we're going to the 80s, a 14-year-old girl in the 80s is going to like find a clique. She's going to make friends. She's going to try to attach herself to socially accepted or popular cliques in the school. You know, whether she joins the cheerleading squad and becomes one of the Heathers, or if she joins, like, you know, gets into, I don't know, like some like a artistic hobby and joins like the artsy chicks, or she, you know, gets involved with a music scene and she wants to like hang out with the girls who are all into the music scene, whatever it is, whether it's Kesha Gaga or, you know, Debbie Gibson, I don't know, whatever, right? And but it's all about that. But boys of that, in that age group, a lot of the time they're still doing the same stuff that they were doing when they were preteen. You know, they're playing games, they're into sports, they may just be starting to notice girls, but as like, you know, romantic partners, but it's not like a priority for them. You know, they're still like playing around. They're still being kids in a lot of ways. So other girls and other people who have made that leap, so there could be boys who are a little older that have like, you know, oh, I don't do that kid stuff anymore. I have a job and I'm saving up for a Trans Am, and I want to like take girls on dates or whatever. They may like, you know, socially shame the boys that haven't like gotten to that stage. But I think a lot of it does come from girls because they set the standard even in those environments. I think that's something that is interesting because boys mature. You could say that they mature later, but I think it's more like they stay kids a bit longer, I guess, or they don't see like that it's somehow like, you know, disgusting or shameful to like to play tag or, you know, even like still collect action figures or play video games or whatever. But I think that girls, they tend to create a kind of hierarchy of what is acceptable.
Well,
you know,
for girls, I think almost everything is appearance.
yeah.
Whereas boys focus a lot more on the effects of their actions. You could probably give girls the benefit of men's greater ability to manage their emotional well-being, teaching girls to also try to see things in terms of the effects of their actions, but we don't do that. And yes, men actually have better emotional well-being because the masculine mindset is one of the two best mindsets to deal with life. And
Right.
if women were encouraged to embrace some of the tool sets in the masculine mindset, or masculine gender expression, they would be doing a lot better, but they're not. They're encouraged to view masculinity as toxic and beneath them, you know, and, that might be one benefit to having a male partner, that you learn that more.
Yeah,
but,
that's the other thing too. I was going to say that, you know, girls are essentially asking for conformity, and other girls are more than fine doing that. But boys, they generally don't go along with that, at least not until later when they realize that they need to please women to attract them. But like at first, you know, when girls start doing that, boys are less likely to care about conformity or care about, you know, like being accepted as part of that clique, and they just sit because they have enough male friends that feel like them that it doesn't bother them. And I think that maybe that could also be the fact that boys tend to be more disagreeable, more individualistic, you know, and more rebellious in their nature. So.
okay. All right. So let me double check. Did any of you guys, maybe one of you guys could go and see if it all works out? feedthebadger.com/justthetip. I mean,
Try
come on.
just the tip.
You know you want to try it. You know you want to try it.
Yeah.
Just give it a go. See if it works.
Give
Allison
the tip.
Yeah. Oh,
You asked for it. You asked for it.
I did.
This is consent. I'm just gonna presume consent. So I got a couple super chats. Amasang gives us $2 and says, "Who you wanted links? Well, excuse me, princess." Smirky face. I think that's a smirking face. And then Xerinx gives us $5 and says, "Tag is not childish. Did you see the movie? Based on a true story. Those guys were playing as senior citizens still. I challenge women to have that." Well, yeah, I mean, like, would tag be some evolved, like some product of evolution? Chase down the prey as a predator and you have to catch it. It's like running into a herd of zebra and trying to tackle one to the ground, isn't it? So I bet that there is, honestly, I bet there is an evolutionary explanation for tag and most other games that boys play. I don't know about freeze tag though. Okay. And hide and go seek. It's another one. That's another one. You got to find the deer, you know, or whatever it is you're hunting. Okay. No more super chats. That's all of them. So thanks, guys.
I don't know, man. I was banging 7-gram rocks and finishing them because that's how I roll. I have one speed. I have one gear. Go.
All right. Appreciate his honesty. Allison, you're muted.
I'm just taking a look. I'm taking a look to figure out
Okay.
if anything occurred, and if any of the other back channels received any kind of, and nothing on Rumble.
Nothing on Rumble. No.
Okay.
I mean, like
call
the chat is pretty active, but which is great. We have more people watching us on Rumble this time.
Mm.
So, yes,
Awesome.
Boys take their cues from girls. That's basically it. And of course, this woman, because she has a specific way that she frames her reality, she will never really address any of the issues that she's claiming exist, because she's operating from a very specific perspective that nullifies women's involvement and magnifies boys. Sometimes even just creating it from nothing. All right, so yeah, that's basically it. We got nothing else to add. This went for an hour and a half, which is the sweet spot. So, do you want to say anything more, Allison?
I'll just remind everyone
bitch up?
that you can support us by going to feedthebadger.com. And we are doing our monthly fundraiser, which is at feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. And every little bit helps. So $5, $10, everything is appreciated. Everything gets us over the goal. And it does go towards making sure that Brian, Prim, and Hannah, Prim probably after she's recovered from giving birth, are able to create their work for the month and also HBR expenses. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. All right.
All right.
Back to you, Brian.
Yep. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, give us a plus on Rumble. I think they just call it a Rumble, but I'm not really sure. And subscribe to us over on Rumble, because, one day we might only be on Rumble, and you may as well be ready for that when the time comes, which I think might be an inevitability. So yeah, follow us on Rumble. Link is in the description. And thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. We will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.